It is the Jesse Kelly Show, another hour of the Jesse Kelly Show on a fantastic Friday. We are going to discuss so many things this hour. We're going to talk about their Supreme Court justices versus our Supreme Court justices. I'll get to that in just a few. Talk about a COVID reckoning or lack thereof. Someone's upset about it. Some guy, in fact, I'm going to talk to him right now, is thinking about changing careers. I think this may end up being helpful, maybe not. All that and so much more coming up on the final hour. The second hour, it's not our final hour. I guess I'll do another one after that of the Jesse Kelly Show. Dear Hulk hands, I like this guy. I'm 32 years old. I'm considering a career change. I'd like to go into the trades because I'd like to work with my hands, and the current job is lacking in several areas. If Trump's plan succeeds, we can expect more trade jobs, so on and so forth. I currently have a full-time job and a mortgage, and based on the research I've done, not many trade schools offer part-time training. In short, am I too old to go into a trade school? What advice would you give? I'm giving myself 6 months to decide. Okay, so I'm going to say this, and maybe this will apply to you in your life and maybe it won't, because people think about this stuff all the time. Very common thing. Should I change careers? I don't like my career. I'd like to try this. Am I too old? Look, it applies to personal life. I want to get married. Am I too old to try? Am I too old for this? Am I too old to travel? I've always wanted to. I've wanted to see Nepal. Am I too old? Am I too old? So I should clarify that my answer that I'm about to give right now is going to be unbelievably tainted, not just by my own personal life, but by the last 6 to 8 months of my personal life. First, you remember my dad died. That was about 8 months ago. My dad died. Still hurt. Then, not long after that, one of my aunts died. Wonderful woman, saint of a woman. Now we just got more terrible family news about someone else. So I've got death on the brain, right? End of life on the brain. I've got it on the brain. Bad right now. And I'm a Kelly. I'm 43 years old. The Kelly men do not live very long. We just do not. On my father's side, my grandpa didn't sniff 60 on my dad's side. My dad died short of 70. I think he was like 3 weeks short of turning 70. And he was, I'm pretty sure, comfortably the oldest of all of his brothers. All his brothers are gone too. The Kelly men do not live long. I probably won't see 70, I would guess. If I see 70, that's house money. I know I won't see 80. That just won't happen for me. I'm 43. That's 27 years left. 27 years, and I'm out of here. So I've had that on my mind. Now, I'm not afraid of it. I'm okay with it. But I just, you have these moments when you think about that stuff, that you think about your life, what you haven't done, what you have done. I look at my boys and, have I raised them right? Am I going to leave Ob behind? You think about that stuff. I have taken gigantic risks many times in my life. Huge, stupid risks. Stupid thing. Joining the Marine Corps was something no one told me to do. Virtually everyone in my life hated it. But I thought I was a bit of a dirtball of a young man, and I wanted to grow up, and I went down to the recruiting office, and I joined the Marine Corps. I almost freaking died. Running for Congress, same thing. Totally crazy. I remember the first time I called my sister when I told her I was running for Congress, she about fell out of her chair. She said, "You're not even qualified." I've moved the family across the country multiple times. I've taken big risks that have ended in disaster. And then this whole gig ended in obviously unbelievable success, but I didn't know that was going to happen. I'm glad I took every one of them because you don't have much time. You're not going to get a second chance at this life. You're 32 years old. You're not 82 in a wheelchair. If you dream of a career in the trades, go chase it. Go. Maybe you'll fail. I want to be clear about that. You might fail terribly. You might go bankrupt. It might end in disaster. Almost every big risk I've taken has ended in pretty much disaster. Almost every one of them. At one point, I ran completely out of money. What, Chris? What? Chris said that's the problem with big picture guy. Chris is detail guy. He's stressing out over there. I get that. I understand that. But when I die, if I have more time, if I know I'm about to go, and I'm laying on my deathbed, what am I going to wish I did? What am I going to regret I didn't try? I try to live my life through that lens. What are you going to wish you had a shot at? Maybe you're a woman. Maybe you're listening to me right now. And maybe you're thinking, hey, I'm great at baking. I bake really well. Maybe you're looking for some side money, got a passion for something. Maybe you've thought about being one of those women that sells their cookies on Facebook or whatever it is. And maybe you've talked yourself out of it 1,000 different ways. Okay. Why don't you try it? Why don't you try it? You're going to die one day. Try it. Go out there and live every single second and freaking try it. Take a chance. Fail. Make mistakes. Do it. Swing for the fences. Take it from me. You'll strike out a lot. And also, take it from me. You might wake up one day and hit a homer. I dropped my job selling RVs about 7 years ago, 6.5 years ago now. Selling RVs. Decided to make a run at a media career. That doesn't happen. You don't just get to make that up and invent that. Who does that? At mid-30s with a mortgage, wife, kids, 2 car payments? Who does that? That's stupid. Doesn't even make sense. Here I am, talking to the entire country on a Friday night. Because God blessed it. The right people listen. For some reason you like this stuff. And here I am. Luckiest guy in the world. Try it. You might just find what you're looking for. Dear tongue punch and jerk. The tongue punch was about the chicken wings, whatever. Jesse, we're in trouble. This administration isn't going to do anything to hold anyone accountable for the sins of COVID, political persecution, and many cover-ups. I feel like if it were to happen, it should have been done by now. I know you've pointed out with having a period of a year. I think I'm ready for that right-wing dictator about now, and I hate that I'm feeling that way about this great USA. But look at what happened when Lincoln did it. Just saying. Says I can say his name. Okay, his name is Rob. Listen. I tried to address a bit of this, and I'll continue to try to do this from time to time at the beginning of the show. I'm not telling you everything's going to be okay. In fact, I know it won't be, because the Trump administration, if they were perfect, and no administration is, if they were perfect, in 4 years you cannot clean up decades of corruption, especially when there are systems in place to ensure the corruption remains in place. It's not humanly possible. I don't know that we're going to be okay. But we are doing right now more good things than I can remember Republicans doing, more anti-communist things than I can remember Republicans doing at any other point in my lifetime. I have never seen this level of anti-communism flowing through the veins of the right. Do we have a bunch of weak sister GOPers who need to go? James Langford. Yes, of course we do. Of course we do. Do we have a mountain to climb and we might not get there? Of course. I don't know. But we are trending as well as I've ever seen. It's not good enough. It's not fast enough. And all the bad guys will not be held accountable. Remember, we've talked about this before. The book, remember the book? Remember the book I've told you to read many times before? About the reserve Nazi battalion? Remember that book, right? Talked about it many times. there's this Nazi reserve battalion. And, well, they went around and they slaughtered a bunch of Jews, shooting women and children in the head. Ordinary Men. Sorry, I didn't say the name of the book. Sorry, Chris. The name of the book is Ordinary Men. Ordinary Men. One more time, Ordinary Men. That's not the part of the book that hits me hardest. The part of the book that hits me the hardest is, spoiler alert, at the end, almost all of them took the uniform off, went back, and lived the rest of their lives as accountants, lawyers, construction workers, grandpas, fathers, brothers, sisters. They weren't on trial. When corruption is so widespread, getting real justice is almost impossible. And we may not have it in this lifetime. All right, let's move on. I want to talk about the Supreme Court quickly before we get back to these questions. It is the Jesse Kelly Show on a magnificent Ask Dr. Jesse Friday. And I realize there have been some heavy topics on the show.
It is as heavy as 10 boxes that you might be moving.
So we are probably going to lighten it up in a couple minutes, but I want to address the Supreme Court thing. The Supreme Court, I hate that I even have to say these words. It drives me crazy. The Supreme Court has decided they're going to allow Trump to deport 500,000 illegals. First, who are these illegals? Well, remember, the Biden administration was run by soulless communist demons who hated the United States of America. And because they hate the country, they tried to bring in as many people as they possibly could. One of the ways they did this was this parole program. Essentially, they not only brought them in, they put up legal walls that prevented us from deporting them. I mean, Democrats are just evil. The modern Democrat is evil, and voting for Democrats is an act of evil. But we'll set that aside. It was horrible. It was evil. It was wrong. And Trump's saying, well, okay, well, these are people we know where they are, that we know who they are. I'm deporting them now. But there are no more protections. You're leaving. He had to ask the Supreme Court to do it. It's crazy to me. But the Supreme Court, for once, decided the right way. And they said, yeah, sure, sounds good. Okay. There were only 2 dissenting votes. And it's the two you already know. Ketanji Brown Jackson and Sonia Sotomayor. Here was MSNBC talking about it.
Yeah, it was a 7-2 decision. That means that all the conservative justices and Justice Elena Kagan voted together on this case to allow President Trump to end these protections for more than 500,000 individuals from Cuba, from Haiti, from Nicaragua, and from Venezuela. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson and Justice Sonia Sotomayor dissented in this opinion. They said, quote, it undervalues the devastating consequences of allowing the government to precipitously upended the lives and livelihoods of nearly 500,000 non-citizens while their legal claims are pending.
Whoa, that made me so angry. And not for the reasons you think. It didn't make me angry because the filthy communists tried to keep 500,000 people here. It made me angry because Ketanji Brown Jackson, Sonia Sotomayor, they are unapologetically who they are, and I want that for my side. I do. And people think I'm crazy for that. I want the courts to be nonpartisan. I'll grow up. The courts are unbelievably partisan, and they always have been. The courts are occupied by men and women, flesh and blood, people with biases, people with desires, and they all twist and manipulate the law to get their desired outcome. Sonia Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown Jackson are committed America-hating communists. They hate me, and vice versa, I hate them. They hate the United States of America. And until the day they retire or die in the Supreme Court, they will issue every single ruling. They will do every single thing they can possibly do to the end of destroying the country. That is their ultimate goal. Their eyes are fixated on that goal, and they will always march in that direction. Us, we have to flip a coin. Well, I hope we're using the appropriate legal arguments. John Roberts has to cite the precedent of the Dred Scott versus Goldfish and the. Why can't we get people that are committed? We have Clarence Thomas, Sam Alito, and a bunch of losers on the Supreme Court. That's what we have. I look at the committed communists, and I'm jealous. Where's that commitment on our side? Where is it? We have a whole bunch of, well, I'm not going to go into it. Dear Dr. Jesse Sombrero, if you could relive your life going back to 18, which of these lives would you choose? A single famous professional bull rider, and you're obviously not 6'8" anymore. A free, broke world traveler with a YouTube channel. A history professor that is secretly a mercenary working for special clients. Oh, gosh. All right. So, first, the person wrote the email, so I'm assuming you are someplace where they have rodeos. And I realize rodeo is a big thing now, but I grew up in Montana, as you know. Rodeos are everywhere all the time. It's not just one big national one. There is always a rodeo going on somewhere. They are a blast, I should point out. Super patriotic. The food's good. The people are wonderful. I promise no one's going to rob you or shoot you at a rodeo. It's just wonderful people. Wonderful time. Highly recommended. Have you ever seen a bull ride up close? You can count me out, but those might be the toughest dudes on the planet. The dudes who ride bulls for a living, that's insane. I don't have any desire, and even crazy 18-year-old Jesse probably would not have had any desire. Now let's address this history professor slash assassin thing, because I think that's probably where I'm leaning. It is the Jesse Kelly Show on a fantastic Friday. Remember, if you miss any part of the show, you can download the whole thing, iHeart, Spotify, iTunes. Don't forget about our Memorial Day special we did on Monday. That's I'm glad you're enjoying it. So Monday's show, we put more effort into that show than we do any other show in the year because it means so much to us. So iHeart, Spotify, iTunes. Back to this guy's question before we move on to the other Ask Dr. Jesse questions. He asked me if I could relive my life of 18, if I wanted to be a single bull rider, famous, a free, broke world traveler with a YouTube channel, or a history professor that's secretly a mercenary working for special clients. I already eliminated the bull rider because I'm a coward, and that makes me extremely afraid. I've been to a million rodeos, and those no. So, Jewish producer Chris, he thinks I'm going to say history professor working as a mercenary for special clients. We all know that that's the coolest one. But the second one, a free, broke world traveler with a YouTube channel. It's appealing to me, and I need to explain why. We all have parents. We all have influences in our lives, people who raised us. Maybe you were raised by your grandparents or a mom or a dad or whatever, and we all have been, I was about to say warped, guided by them in certain ways, in certain directions. Me, I had a father who was probably the hardest working person I've ever known in my entire life. And he believed in going to work. You get your butt to work. You be a man. You pay the bills. Life isn't about screwing off. Go pay the bills. And that's how he raised me. I remember, I've told you before, I brought it up one time. We were on vacation or something like that somewhere, and I'd never seen a valet driver before. There was a valet driver at this hotel, and it was a young guy. And I actually mentioned, man, I should go be a valet, because my father had talked to him. The guy was a valet driver for a year or two. He was just enjoying himself as a valet driver as a young man. You know, I'm sure chasing women around, enjoying the beach and being a valet driver. And I said, wow, that sounds great. My father about came unglued at the very suggestion that I would set aside all purpose in life and go be a valet driver for a year. He thought that was the most ridiculous thing in the world. And so that's always been my mentality. At 14, before I was legally able, I had a job, and in the summer, it was a full-time job. I was working 50, 60 hours a week. I found a job with a friend's dad, paying me under the table because I wanted to go to work, and that's what men do. They go to work, and you don't screw off, and you go. So I said all that to let you know that I am tainted. I am guided, I guess I should say, by that way of thinking. The idea of being completely unencumbered by any responsibility, and you're traveling the world, seeing new sites with a YouTube channel, I could never do it. I could never do it. But it fascinates me. What, Chris? What? Chris said YouTube is the job. You make a lot of money doing that. You know, my son's tried to tell me this. I guess I'm so old I don't understand. But that there are all these people on YouTube who make a fortune on YouTube doing YouTube. I'm not used to. I get it. Like, it's a revenue stream and everything's clicks and subscribers. I understand the basic concept. But money aside, I don't think I could make myself do something like that. But I want to. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? What, Chris? What? Chris said, yeah, but I could never. I know I could never. I know. But I can look at people who do different things, and I know I could never do it, but I admire it. I admire it. I think it's cool. I think that about people who, musicians. Traveling musicians. I see these people. We were at a restaurant the other night. They had a live band, and there wasn't anything big, but they traveled all over the state. Just a little basic country band, Texas country band, and they were all older dudes. They were all my age, right? 40s, 50s. That's what they did for a living. With families. They had wedding rings on, and they traveled all around. I could never do that, but I admire it. I think it's cool. There, that's my answer. Dear Hulk Hands, my issue is when me and my girlfriend watch movies, and she's one of the ones who talk through the movie and asks questions out loud about what's going to happen later in the movie. It annoys the crap out of me. I just want to watch it and listen in peace. And I just want to say, shut up and just watch, woman. But I don't want to hurt her feelings. Any advice? P.S. She's Cuban. Okay. Remember, Latinas in general, you need to be very careful, all right? You need to treat them like redheads. It's as if you're holding a highly explosive jar of nitroglycerin and your hands are covered in baby oil. That's the kind of dangerous ground you're on when you're dealing with a Cuban woman anyway. That's how they get you, the same way the redheads do. They're so hot. They're all dimes. They suck you right in. But then you figure out if you make her mad, then you're in serious trouble. You're in physical danger. Now, you need to tread very carefully here. But allow me to explain something about women and why they do this. Because Ob does the same thing. This is a woman thing they do. They talk during the movie, and you can be watching the same movie at the same time, both of you having never seen it before, and they will ask questions of, is this the guy who's going to do this? What's this guy going to say? Did he say this? And you just want to scream, I'm watching when you watch, how do I know? But allow me to explain this in the nicest way possible because I'm a nice person. Women are more anxious than men are. They are. It's their nature. Women are more anxious than men are. More unsettled. It's part of why men and women fit so well together. Men, oftentimes, me, or I'm too settled. I'm too comfortable. Ob gets frustrated because she tries to scare me, get a jump scare. She's tried our entire marriage to get a jump scare out of me. She'll hide behind a door and yell and jump and scream. It has never worked. I've never even flinched. It doesn't work on me. She thinks it's bizarre that I'm that laid back. If I so much as touch her on the back and she doesn't know I'm there, she'll come out of her clothes. She'll just freak out immediately. Women are more anxious than men. So when they're watching a movie and she's asking you questions, she has anxiety about all the things she doesn't know and all the things that are to come. You, the dude, you are her comfort. That's how she looks at you. A comforting blanket, if you will. It's always going to be that way, and they never, ever change. Plus, she's Cuban. You be careful, okay? And definitely don't tell her to shut up. If you tell her to shut up, you'll never email the show again. I just want to be clear. If you tell a Cuban woman to shut up, you've watched your last movie with her. You maybe watched the last movie of your life. In fact, your life is probably over. So be extremely careful. All right, enough of that. Dear Jesse, I was listening to your program again tonight. You were talking about the Chinese influences in American universities. I'm a secondary education teacher in Utah. I wonder why the government and conservative talk show hosts don't talk about the Chinese influence in secondary schools, especially the Chinese immersion programs in Utah that bring native Chinese to teach and influence kids starting in kindergarten. I do not want my name mentioned. We will discuss this and what's going on in just a moment. It is the Jesse Kelly Show on a wonderful Friday. Do not forget, you can email us, jesse@jessekellyshow.com. And before I forget, it's not my fault. Next week, I'm going to be here for Monday's show, and then I ain't going to be here anymore. Just next week. It's not fun. It's work. Nothing I can do about that. So gear up for that. Now back to what this lady was talking about, Chinese influence in secondary schools and Chinese immersion programs. We've had many talks about how being in a war, being in a fight, it doesn't take two people making that decision. If only one person makes that decision, then you're in a fight. If one person decides they want to go to war with you, then you're in a war. You don't get a say. Only one side gets a say. That's how it goes. It sucks. It can be hard to accept, and many American politicians, many American bureaucrats have not accepted the fact that China has declared war on us. And it's such a cold war. It's such a different kind of a war that we don't always see it, and we don't know how to fight it. I say that because, they make so many things in China, and we're their number one customer. So they need us. We need them. And yet China has published papers announcing their intention to supplant us as the number one country on the planet. They are not quiet about it. They're not even a little shy about it. China is trying to defeat us. China wants to be the number one global power. They've even put a date on it, 2050. 2050 is the date. It's a published thing. Go read it yourself. That's what China wants. But like I said, it's a weird kind of a thing because we're not launching bombs and missiles at each other. There aren't Chinese divisions landing on the California shore. They're fighting it in a completely asymmetrical way, a completely different kind of a way. For instance, fentanyl. Why do you think Trump has been so hard on China about fentanyl, focusing on fentanyl? Why do you think that is? You know that the precursors, the things you need to make fentanyl is actually made in large part in Mexico now, but they're not making it in Mexico without the ingredients that come from China. The Mexicans have struck a deal with the Chinese to get the fentanyl ingredients into Mexico so they can make it and then ship it into here where Americans are dying in droves. Now, do you think the Chinese government that controls virtually every aspect of Chinese society, do you think they're unaware that fentanyl comes from there? Of course they know. They'll play dumb when they have to, but not only do they know, they would only allow it if they wanted it to happen. That's the thing about a society that controls everything. When something happens there, you have no other choice but to assume that's what the government wants. China is drugging out America on purpose, weakening us. Not in tangible ways. It's not a bomb dropping on New York City, but in ways that rot you out at your very foundation. Another way they do this is through our education system. They have found willing partners because so much of our education system is run by America-hating communists. Well, China, that's an easy sell. It's an easy partner. The Soviet Union did the same thing. The Soviet Union long ago realized, well, the Democrat Party, that's our in. They'll provide a way in. They'll keep the door open for us. China realized the same thing. And they have been slowly but surely spending a fortune to sink money and sink their ideas, more specifically, into the heads of American students as American students are deciding how they see the world. And China comes with a large checkbook, in case you're wondering how that gets in. How does that get in? Let's say you're a public school system. Let's say you're a university. Well, you always want money. Professors always want a raise. You always want a fancy new building. You always want this. You always want that. You always want money. What if China comes calling? What if they've got a $20 million check waiting for you? We are going to write your university a $20 million check. And you know what your university needs? A Confucius Institute. We will build the Confucius Institute with our own money. You can put your students through these classes. We will staff it, or we'll vet the staffers. Don't worry about that. And $10 million a year from now on from China. That's how much we want your students to learn from the Confucius Institute. And you take these 18, 19-year-old kids still figuring out who they are, how they see the world, and you indoctrinate them with the greatness of communism, the greatness of China. You can't be that overt about it, but you know, if you get enough American students graduating college thinking China's the bee's knees and that America kind of sucks, this all aids in your effort to defeat America, which, of course, as we know, is China's ultimate goal. It becomes this boogeyman that people don't want to hear about or talk about. Oh, gosh. Why do you think China spends so much money with major American newspapers? Why do you think that is? Why do you think China spends so much money making movies that we watch? So invested in Hollywood. Hollywood needs its movies to sell in China in order to make huge international money. China closely monitors what's in these movies. And if they see something they don't like, they will call Hollywood and demand Hollywood make changes. Remember that video we played for you before? You don't have to dig it up, Chris. We're at the end of the hour. John Cena said something about the existence of Taiwan. Took about 5 minutes. He was out there with an internet video apologizing in Mandarin for what he had said. They buy influence. They ship poison here. They are at war with us. How we fight, it's another matter. All right, let's talk about those cat-fighting Secret Service agents and more next.